Empty shelves, soaring prices. Is a hunger crisis coming? From supermarkets to farmlands, the world is feeling the squeeze of a looming food shortage. In 2025, global food systems are under strain, and billions are at risk. This is the World Decoded, and today we are diving into the 2025 food crisis. Can we feed the world? Let us find out. Key point 1. Supply cuts and price spikes. The United Nations and the Food and Agriculture Organization warn that global food supply chains are in trouble. FAO data shows a 15% cut in global food supplies in 2024, driven by conflict, climate change, and economic shocks. Wheat, a staple for billions, has been hit hard. Global wheat prices spiked 20% in 2024, according to FAO's Food Price Index, making bread and pasta unaffordable for many. In Africa, where 700 million people face hunger, these price hikes are devastating. The FAO reports that cereal production dropped for the first time in a decade, with maize and rice prices also climbing due to supply chain disruptions and export bans. Extreme weather, like droughts in Ghana and floods in India, has slashed harvests, while the war in Ukraine cut exports from a key breadbasket. In 2023, 282 million people in 59 countries faced acute food insecurity, needing urgent aid. These numbers are not just statistics, they are lives on the line. If supplies keep shrinking, who will go hungry? But who is really to blame? Is it nature, governments, or something more sinister? Let us dig into the claims swirling online and uncover the forces driving this crisis. Key point 2. Corporate hoarding and trade wars. Unexed users are pointing fingers at corporate hoarding and trade wars. Posts claim that big agribusinesses are stockpiling grain to inflate prices, leaving shelves empty in poorer nations. One user wrote, "Corporations are sitting on wheat while Africa starves." Another blamed trade wars, saying, "Global powers are weaponizing food." These sentiments reflect real fears. The FAO confirms that export restrictions by countries like India and Russia have tightened global markets. With 17% of traded calories restricted in 2023, in Africa, 700 million people are at risk of hunger, with countries like Somalia and Sudan facing famine. The World Bank notes that transportation inefficiencies in Africa make food supply chains fragile, with perishable goods taking 23 days to travel 4,000 kilometers. Trade wars add fuel to the fire. Reuters reports that US-China trade tensions, including bans on agricultural imports, have disrupted global markets, raising costs for consumers. Are these deliberate moves, or just chaotic policy? The answer could change everything. Are governments hiding the truth? Behind closed doors, geopolitical moves are reshaping our food supply. Stay with us as we uncover what is really going on. Key point 3. Geopolitical factors. Reuters highlights how US-China trade bans are shaking global food markets. In 2024, US restrictions on Chinese agricultural imports, paired with China's retaliatory tariffs, disrupted 12% of global grain trade. This tit-for-tat has hit developing nations hardest, with countries like Egypt, reliant on imported wheat, facing price spikes. The war in Ukraine, now in its third year, continues to block 30% of global wheat exports, as Ukraine and Russia supply a fifth of the world's maize. The World Bank warns that rising fertilizer prices, up 40% since threaten next season's harvests, especially in East Africa. Political instability also plays a role. In Sudan, conflict has driven 8 million people into acute food insecurity, while Gaza faces near-famine conditions due to restricted aid. The FAO says 50 countries depend on Russia and Ukraine for 30% of their cereal imports. With geopolitics choking supply lines, can we break free? Can technology save our food supply? From cutting-edge farms to new solutions, innovators are stepping up. Let us explore how science might feed the future. Key point 4. Solutions like vertical farming. Vertical farming is emerging as a game-changer, with $5 billion invested globally in 2024, according to industry reports. These high-tech farms grow crops indoors, using less water and land, and are immune to weather shocks. In Singapore, vertical farms produce 10 times more food per square meter than traditional farms. The World Bank highlights climate-smart agriculture, like drought-resistant crops and mobile apps for farmers, as key to boosting yields. In Ethiopia, rainfall forecasts via mobile tech have helped farmers plant smarter, increasing harvests by 15%. Blockchain platforms are also tackling supply chain waste, ensuring food reaches markets faster. The FAO reports that 1.3 billion tons of food, enough to feed 1.26 billion people, is wasted annually. By scaling these innovations, we could close the hunger gap, but funding is a hurdle. The World Bank estimates $500 billion annually is needed to transform global food systems by 2030. Can we afford it? What if we cannot feed everyone? The stakes are rising, and the future is uncertain. Stick with us to see what 2030 could hold for global food security. Key point 5. 2030 food security trends. The IPCC warns that climate change will worsen food security by projecting a 1 to 29% rise in cereal prices due to lower crop yields. Droughts and heat waves could cut maize and wheat production in Africa by 10%, putting 183 million more people at risk of hunger. The FAO predicts 582 million people will be chronically undernourished with Africa bearing the brunt. Urbanization is another challenge, with 70% of people living in cities by 2050, increasing demand for processed foods and straining rural farms. The World Bank's Food Security Outlook projects 956 million people facing severe food insecurity by 2028 if economic growth slows. Solutions like bioenergy and reforestation could help, but they require massive land use changes. Up to 700 million hectares. Without action, empty shelves could become the norm. The question is, will we act in time? Will you face empty shelves? The 2025 food crisis is a warning, but it is not too late. Support sustainable farming, demand open trade, and push for innovation. Comment below with your thoughts. Subscribe to the World Decoded and watch our next video to decode the food fight. The future is hungry. Make sure you are fighting back.